Hi, and welcome to Courageous Conversations. We're real excited that you're joining us today because we're going to be taking on a pretty sensitive subject, and that is Roe versus Wade, abortion. There was over 63 million abortions since 1973, but I don't want us to focus just on that. I want us to focus on today. If there were 63 million babies that have passed away, how many women have been affected? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back to Courageous Conversations. And today we're going to have a good time. I got some good friends joining me today. And I've got a question for you, Miss Michelle. Tell me what you do to relax.
To relax.
What's your favorite way to relax?
My favorite way to relax is sitting down in my chair, putting up my Bible, just kind of reading it and just meditating on the Word.
I can see you doing that too. We're always calling each other, going, what you reading? Miss Chris Naramore, tell me what you love to do to relax.
What I do to relax, I love to do, truthfully, is being a quiet time. I mean, honestly, just sitting there with me, God, and I'm talking with Him, and we are conversing with one another. That's the most relaxing time, with my dog in the chair next to me.
Yes.
That's the relaxing.
All right. Here is my sweet husband, the man, the legend, Sean Pankella. Tell me what you like to do, honey, to relax.
I was thinking about going out hunting, killing something.
I knew it was coming.
You know?
It was coming. Look at this man.
I mean,
Yeah.
no, honestly.
This is how you relax. So you like to get out in nature. It
I
really
do.
is.
Sometimes I like to get out, though, honestly, in the mornings, and I'll grab my phone with a video camera, and I'll walk out on the dock, and you can hear the birds, and you can see the sun rising, and it's just, and, sometimes I'll put on some worship music, and it's just, but sometimes just nature being out there with what God created is worship, right? And
You hear a lot of men say that too.
yeah,
right?
I mean,
it's true.
you hear the osprey, sometimes you hear an eagle, whatever. And it's just awesome. So I think for me, the biggest thing about that is just quiet time. Just taking a focused time to set aside to declutter.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what being out in the woods is like for me when I go hunting. Sometimes
That's
I don't have to
awesome.
kill anything. It's just being out in the woods.
Well, everybody else is so much more spiritual than me. Sorry, everybody. The way I relax, I love to get in bed after I have worked and poured out all day. It's not my time. I really like to study the Word or anything like that. I love to put on like a good cooking show or a decorating show or a gardening show. And I think it's because I'm a wannabe. I have no green thumb. I tell my children, thank God you're alive, because if you were a plant, you would be dead. Anybody who's a good gardener out there, please call me if you've got any help for me. I love it. So I love, that's how I love to do it. But, anyways, relaxation is it is an important part of life. But we are taking on a big subject today. And, it's a hot subject for a lot of people, and especially us as Christ followers. But it's not just us as Christ followers, it's any human beings. And that is the right to life, And for us here as Christ followers, we believe that conception is from the moment that you conceive.
Absolutely.
I mean, we really do believe that. And, but the other side of that is we come from the other side of the Christ follower that says, we don't want to just be that person saying, keep your baby, and then you keep your baby, and then who's going to help you after you keep your baby? I feel like that is something that is so important as Christ followers. We need to be talking about what is the support system once somebody chooses life. What do we do? But now we want to take it even on another side of that, is we want to talk today a little bit about what do you do after you've had the abortion? And us as Christ followers, I just believe that and really as human beings, wouldn't you guys say that?
Yes.
What do we do with the emotions of somebody and what they're dealing with? So today, we're going to be talking a lot about that today. And I've got our beautiful friend, Chris Naramore, here with us, who has got a testimony. And I get the privilege of working with this beautiful woman every week with girls who are going through some tough things in life, right? Girls that have been trafficked, girls that have been abused, girls who have been through a lot. But I think because of everything you've gone through, it really helps you be able to relate with these girls. So I just want you to just introduce yourself just a second and share just a little bit about you.
Well, a little bit about me is I'm married. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. So then I moved down to Virginia, and that's where I met my husband. But I am also a divorced person with a child. So my husband and I have been married now 26 years.
Which is incredible.
Yes, and he's awesome, and he is very loving, like Sean is. He understands, and when I was going through my recovery from abortion, he was the kindest person. He sat with me. He watched films with me. He listened to me. He cried with me. And it wasn't his baby. So he was an amazing man.
Well, take us back a little bit of how you were raised, because I don't think you were raised with abortion even being, and I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like 85 or 90% of people who have abortions don't believe in abortion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that it's not something that it's like, oh, they're every day dreaming about doing. I think we have to really get rid of that stigma. I mean, people are doing it because we say choices, but they don't see any choices. They don't see hope. And so I think, I'd love to hear you go back a little bit about how you were raised. Just give me one little minute. Like, were you raised in a Christian home? Yeah. What was it?
I was raised in a Christian home. I was a good little Christian girl, and I've loved Jesus since I was a kid. I mean, little. I've loved Jesus. So I knew that this is not what God wanted. But
what happened? What happened that got you to that point? Okay, so you're raised in a Christian home. Mm-hmm. You've been raised. I love how she said that, the good little Christian girl. I mean, I do that because we all want to put that in. We all get that heavy weight of what a good little Christian girl is. But then all of a sudden you're going through life, and all of a sudden you get in the middle of a circumstance.
Right.
I don't know if you can, share that circumstance where you're at.
I have no problem with sharing any of it. So I was a divorced single parent with a 10-year-old son. And my mother had died when I was 35. So I was 38 when I had my abortion. And I was living with a man. I was going through different phases, having been divorced, my mother dying, my grandmother dying when I was very close to her. And then I went crazy. I was the good little girl, okay? Mm-hmm. So I went crazy. I wanted to party. I did drugs. I drank. I did all of these things in excess. And this man that was the father of my aborted little girl, he was this guy, the bad boy, okay? And no bad boys have ever been interested in me. In fact, I hadn't dated anyone but my ex-husband. Mm-hmm. And then I waited until the divorce papers were final. Mm-hmm. And then I started to, I dated one man. And then we broke up. And so then I lost all this weight after my mother, and I went crazy. I just went crazy. And this guy, he was interested in me. He was fun. He loved to party. He loved to drink. He did lots of drugs. And I thought, wow, this is great. This is so much fun.
That is so interesting to me that you brought up, that I wanted to go crazy. And the first thing that hits my spirit is, you had been raised in a Christian home. You knew the right way. What was lacking or longing, or what was the belief that you had in your mind that you were missing something, that you needed to go crazy, or, as you say, find that bad boy? What was it that you were looking for?
I thought I had missed all of that. And I like to have fun, and I like to have a good time. But I had missed all of that because I was being so good.
Right.
Okay. And I never wanted to displease my parents. Of course, during the crazy time, my dad was alive, and he was very displeased with me and let me know. But that didn't change my mind. I was forging ahead, going to do what I wanted to do.
But isn't it funny? and maybe you guys can pop in a little bit here, that the enemy tells us you're missing something. It reminds me of Adam and Eve, when Eve was there and he told her, you could have the whole garden,
Right.
but you can't have one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Eve was willing to give up everything she had because she thought she was missing something. It's the same old thing. I don't know.
I have a question. During this process, I mean, being a Christian, we have that conviction. What were you feeling? Were you still hearing the voice of God, or was it just kind of you were so focused on this man
Being crazy.
Yeah, being
And
crazy.
the man. Yeah.
Yeah. But did you feel that conviction, or?
I was not listening to God.
Gotcha.
This was my curve away from him.
Which is your moment of rebellion.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I was rebelling
Yeah.
against having to be this good girl.
And you probably felt that, and you actually probably got some energy from that.
I
You
did.
probably were like, you know what, I'm living. I feel alive
Yes,
for once in my life.
for
I
the
think.
first time.
Been through all
you
this in
know?
the past.
Yep,
I'm living for myself.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So I walked away from the church at this time. You see, I was in the Lutheran church, and I was president of the congregation.
Mhm.
I was the choir director. I was a Sunday school teacher. And I wanted to resign as the president. They wouldn't accept my resignation. And then they come to me with this piece of paper that says, we need for you to, this is your notice
Mhm.
to resign. And I said, you're not giving me that notice. I'm telling you, I'm resigning.
Right.
And that was it. And I walked away from the church.
Because at that point now you felt judged.
Yes, I felt judged.
Now, is this just from getting the divorce, or is
The
so that's
divorce
just
and
getting
my
the
mother.
divorce?
All right.
Well, and no offense to you, you were wound as tight as a drum from all of this life of expectation and everything
Mhm.
else, living
Yeah.
to please everybody else. And then also you had a tremendous amount of emotional stuff going on. I mean, a divorce, things going on, your mother passing away. I mean, these things are huge. These
They
are
are.
huge, and people shouldn't take them lightly. Yeah.
And the thing is people don't look at that as trauma,
Mhm.
but you take one trauma
Mhm.
on top of another trauma
Right.
and another trauma, and you keep adding traumas
Mhm.
and you haven't dealt with them.
Yep.
It just gets worse
Mhm.
and worse because it's so emotional and stuff.
So by this point, you're almost looking for that bad boy because you're looking now for something to fill back the void. Because
That's
now
right.
you're empty.
Right.
You're down to nothing.
Right.
We all, you mean, we all have needs, right?
Sure.
And you have to fill them. It's whether we're going to fill them with God stuff, or and if we feel like God has failed us or it didn't show up in the right time or the way we wanted it, we're
Right.
going to take matters in our own hands. And sometimes
Exactly.
that's where it goes.
In mine, I'd say I felt like this just came in. I didn't hear that there was any grace coming into your life.
No, I didn't.
I didn't hear
No.
that your dad had grace on you. Now, understandably, your dad was upset for things, but salvation comes through the love of Christ and grace,
Yeah.
and that's what draws people back. And the
Yes.
law doesn't draw you back. The law you break your back on, and it tells you all the things you're wrong with.
Right.
The love and grace bring you back to the cross. And you
Right.
didn't have any of that in your life, right? You were
No,
right there. You
I
were
didn't.
wound tight. People had rejected you. Everybody's mad at you. Now you're mad at everybody else.
That's
And you just were spent emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah.
So to think I'm going back to God, well, right now for you in your mindset, it sounded like that was the last place you wanted to go because you were going to get condemnation and judgment and
You got it.
pressure and all of that. Yeah.
You nailed it.
So now you've got this man in your life,
Yeah.
and tell us what happens. Is it a good relationship? Do you think you're going to marry him? Where are you at with all this?
We were just living together. I wasn't sure. Of course, I wanted to because I thought that would be wonderful. But then, it started to fall apart. And it started to fall apart with me being pregnant. And here he was 38. He had no kids that he knew of.
Mhm.
Here I tell him I'm pregnant. And he looks at me and goes, so what are you going to do about it? Okay. Let me tell you what it triggered. When I was 5 months pregnant, my ex-husband told me he didn't want to be married anymore.
Mm.
It had taken me a long time to get pregnant with our son. When I received the information that I was pregnant with my son, he said, well, I hope you and your mother are happy.
Mm.
So when I heard, what are you going to do about it? It triggered
Here
all
we
of
go
that.
again.
Here it came back. And that's when I looked, very cavalierly said, I guess I'll get an abortion.
Wow. So there's where it all began.
That's where it began.
And what's sad for me is the big question I always ask is, where are the men?
Yeah.
Where are the men that stand up?
Yeah.
We're the men that stand up. Okay, we're going to take just a little break here for a second, and we are going to share with you what we are doing here at Courageous and Free. We are working with women and girls that have been rescued from human trafficking. It is a $150 billion a year business where we believe that it's way over 50 million that are being trafficked all over the world. And we want to be a part of not only the rescue part and the awareness part, we want to be a part of the restoration part. And so that's what we are doing here at Courageous and Free. We are getting a home, and I got to start that over because I have a home now. So by the time they see this, we have a home. I haven't told you yet. Yeah, just wait till I tell you what happened. Yeah, no, you know. Okay. Dang it. Sorry about that.
Okay. And 3, 2.
Oh, this is just getting good because where are the men? We are taking on some tough conversations today, but on top of that, we want to take a moment to share with you what Courageous and Free is all about. We are about rescuing and restoration for girls that have been human trafficked. It is a $150 billion a year business where over 50 million people globally this is happening to. Not only do we here at Courageous and Free want to bring awareness and education, we want to be a part of the restoration. I keep saying once they're rescued, what are we rescuing them to? We want to be a part of the restoration, that we help these girls rebuild their lives. So take a moment, watch this video, and we want you to prayerfully consider how you can be a part of helping us make a difference. Hi, I'm Carolyn Goad-Pankella, and I am really excited to be a part of this message that we are going to be bringing to you today. It's about education, awareness, what we can do, and how we are going to make a difference. And my slogan is, it's not okay. And we are going to be a voice to the voiceless. So come take this journey with us.
So I've been in law enforcement for over 25 years. I spent the last 13 years or so of my career fighting human trafficking because my goal was to end this atrocity. 90 to 95% of kids coming into sex trafficking are being lured in. They're being lured in by recruiting and grooming.
And so one day when I was leaving out of the gas station, that is where I locked eyes with my first trafficker. And it only took him 3 words to realize that I was his perfect victim before he started grooming me. And those 3 words was, "You are beautiful." Those are 3 words that I had never heard my entire life from people that were supposed to love you and support you and be there for you.
The grooming stage is where they're slowly being conditioned for the life that they're about to get into.
But over the next 3 weeks, he would then groom me and kind of find out everything about me. And I wish I knew all this then, but I didn't. But that's when he started to learn my family history, my background, where I came from, who loves me, who supports me.
So one of the fastest growing aspects of minor sex trafficking, or sex trafficking of minors, is what we refer to as familial trafficking. That's kids being trafficked by their own families.
Both of my parents were drug addicts and alcoholics. So my dad had a stroke when I was 9, then that left him disabled. And after that, my mom got involved with more drugs. She started doing crack. Eventually, she started prostituting herself for her drugs. And I went with her one time when I was 11, and her drug dealer offered her a $10 piece of crack for me instead of for her.
After about 3 weeks of grooming me, he asked me, did I want to go on vacation with him? And off we went to where I thought was going to be The vacation of my dreams was actually the nightmare from hell. Every thought in my mind is going off, but he reminded me with the truth. And the truth was, don't think about running because no one is going to look for you. No one cares about you. No one will even know that you're dead.
My trafficker would take me to a hotel. He would make arrangements with the staff so that he wouldn't have to stay. The staff would let people in the rooms. And I remember one time I had been there for a couple of days. The staff came in one day and they told me that my friend called, which was my trafficker, and said that I needed to walk home, which was a couple miles away. And I remember I was walking down the hall barefoot, bleeding, crying, and nobody asked any questions. If I was okay, if I needed help, they just let me walk by and leave.
We're talking about little human beings that dream of being firemen and police officers and astronauts who find themselves in the back room of a brothel.
And so you're probably all wondering, okay, well, how did you get here? How did you get here? The time when I finally got that courage again, right, to walk into that church completely broken. I remember sitting there like this, and they were in a DNA series, and they were talking about God's DNA, love, acceptance, mercy, grace, being adopted into a family, right? All these things that we know about God's love, but however, I never knew them. I just remember sitting there weeping with my face in my hands, like I've been looking for this my whole life.
The ILO says that right now, while we're sitting here, there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking in the world today. The only way to combat it is for every individual to become angry enough to realize that to stop this, I must be engaged.
We've got to be a part. We're asking you to join this fight with us. Alone, we can do so little, but together, we can do so much.
They need a place where they can come and just find that healing. A place where they can recover their voice. They can recover their dream. They can recover their hope. And they can recover what it truly means to be created in the image of God. So we need safe homes.
And I get chills just even saying it to you because I see the difference that it makes to pull these girls out of the situations they're in. And guys, it's not rocket science what we're gonna do. We're gonna just love them. We're gonna tell them they're worthy when they feel unworthy. We're gonna hold them when they cry. We're gonna listen to them share their traumas, but then we're gonna celebrate with them as they get their victories. People say it's a $150 billion business, Carolyn. How are we ever gonna stop it? Listen, one person at a time. They're born one at a time, they die one at a time, so we reach them one at a time.
You be the voice for the voiceless. You be the hope for the hopeless. And you be the love for those who have not experienced love in a long time.
We can't give up. We can't stop. But we need your help today to make a difference in one girl's life. Welcome back to Courageous and Free, where we're talking with Chris today about her testimony. Really, it's her redemption story, forgiven and set free.
Yes.
But today, I just want you've got us to the point now that, you've made the decision to have the abortion. I mean, break that down just a little bit of because you didn't believe in abortion. So what was the process that you had to go through to go, I'm okay with this? Because that's a lot. That's a lot. And there's somebody out there who's in the middle of this.
Yes.
Tell us what that feeling is.
And that feeling is a feeling of hopelessness, number one. You're scared, you're confused, you're ashamed. I mean, people would think what is she, a floozy? Living with this man. And the reason why is because I had walked away from the church, but I was in the community where my church members were. So they were going to look at me and go, oh, yeah, look at that.
But let me ask you a question, because you just said it's hit me funny. So you were willing to sort of leave the church.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're wanting that wild, crazy life. You're living with a man. Why now do you care what people think about having a baby? What is that process? Was that once again just the lie of the enemy? Because why care now? You've gone so far. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is the lie of the enemy because none of us, I do not believe, want to be judged or shamed.
Right.
None of us want that. And this is a baby. So what happens is I convinced myself, because this is what everyone was saying out there, it's just a blob. It's just a bunch of cells. It's just tissue. It's not. And we know it's not.
Right.
And there are reasons why we know it's not.
What are those?
And the first reason is because, number one, God created women to have babies.
Amen.
And so therefore, when you understand what happens at the moment of conception, and you understand that the fertilized egg travels down the fallopian tube, it may take 4 to 5 days for it to do that. But immediately at conception, your female body begins to prepare the womb for the baby to develop in, whether it be a zygote, an embryo, a fetus to baby. That's the beginning stages of life. And that starts immediately. So you got hormones raging in you.
Already at 4 or 5 days?
Yeah. Even before they're starting. They know that you're pregnant and they're going to that womb and preparing it for that baby. So we know how we are when we're going through that time of the month and everything else. And men certainly know that because we can get kind of nasty and everything else.
No, I never did that. So I never,
Words to it.
I never did that.
Time
He's
to
just
go
kidding.
fishing now.
Yeah. Exactly. So we know inside. We try to deny it. And we do. We deny it. We accept it's a bunch of tissue. You should see some of the pictures I see. It looks like cotton. And they say that's a baby. Get out. You're crazy. Y'all crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I chose, you believe it because you are scared. You're ashamed. You don't know how you're going to do this. You're embarrassed. I was embarrassed for my son. You know, what was my son going to say? Oh, yeah, my mom's living with this guy. You know, you go through all these things in your head. I had a successful career. I was a real estate agent. I was doing very well. How am I going to do real estate and have a baby as well as my 10-year-old? And it's just a very emotionally traumatic time. And that's what people don't want to think about. They don't want to admit. It is an emotionally traumatic time.
All right. So you make the decision. Obviously you did that. You said you made the appointment. You went, got the abortion. Tell me the moment after it was over, what you immediately felt, because that to me is who we're talking about today. Is we talk about the abortions, but what about the woman? The woman, and that's what's so real.
Yes, because this isn't just, abortion is not just about the baby. Abortion is about the mother as well, the woman. And you will immediately feel a relief.
Okay.
Because it's just, the burden is gone. I mean, you don't have to tell anybody, right?
Right.
So you just call up at the clinic, make an appointment, go in. This clinic said to me, looked at my intake information and said, wow, you're 38. You know what you're doing. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Well, I say no, I didn't, but yes, I did, and no, I didn't. It was a yes, I did, no, I didn't. Because
you didn't know the aftermath because you'd never done it before.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't know the emotional traumatic.
The consequences is what we call it, right?
Consequences. So you do feel that momentary relief. And it's different. That relief is different for everybody.
Right.
Mine lasted about 4 hours because I went back. I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start partying again. Well, they give you a twilight thing or something like that. So, of course, I couldn't drink. But I tried, and I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. So I walked back across the street, went outside on the deck, and this friend of ours came over. It was a gentleman, and he said to me, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Nothing, I'm great." It was hitting what I'd done. And he said, "You had an abortion today, didn't you?"
Wow.
And I
Wow. Was he a
said-
Christian? How did he know?
He knew, I'm suspecting that probably the father had told him that that's what
Okay.
I did because I was not myself. And he said, I said, yes, I did. And he said, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. So that was the first comfort that I received from a man, the very first comfort. And so, this is why it's so important for women to know out there that I don't know when the relief will pass for every individual. It may not be 4 hours. It may be 5 years. It may be 10 years. It may be 50 years. But that relief does go away. And then that emotional trauma is still there. And that's what we then have to deal with.
Well, and I think we talk about this a lot, what people don't really understand. I mean, you're carrying that baby's DNA with you forever.
Not
And
their
so we
cells.
think that we got rid of a baby or got rid of a blob, whatever. But the realities is the DNA is still a part of us.
Absolutely.
And that nurturing instinct that's in us, you never really get rid of that. I don't care the toughest women out there. You can't put everybody in a box, but
No.
for most women, it's still. So, okay, so you made it through. You did all that. Where did the overwhelmness of the shame begin? And then what were those feelings? How were you handling that?
Okay, great question. It started, like I said, within 4 hours after I'd had the abortion. And I think that's because I was 38 years old. I had a 10-year-old son. Okay, so I knew what I'd done.
Mm-hmm.
And I already talked about that. But what happened to me, which happens to so many women, I started to, I was sexually promiscuous.
It made you go do more?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I drank more. I did more drugs. And the worst part of it was I became very selfish. My son suffered for that selfishness because I was there physically rather for him, but I was not there for him emotionally.
Okay, I've never heard that before. I've never heard the selfishness. What?
Why?
Why would you? Yeah, why?
Because it was more important for me to pass him off to his father for a long weekend or to get a babysitter and me to go out and party and just live.
Was a part of you dead? What was it that made you start feeling that? I'm trying to get to that
The
deeper.
abortion itself, it's an emotional trauma.
But that's what I'm saying.
how
Did
I
it
was
make you
dealing.
feel dead inside? I'm just thinking for the emotion that, because that's a lot that you have an abortion and all of a sudden the one son that you have, now you can't even mother him. I mean, did it make you feel so shameful that you didn't feel worthy to even, what would be
Honestly,
the emotion?
I don't know why I was trying to cover up for myself or deal with the abortion in itself, the reality of it.
Okay.
If I can add some, it seems like, were you thinking maybe, I've already gone this far, I've already messed it up, things, the divorce, this and that, I had this abortion now, really what's the use? I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and go, it seems like
Hopelessness?
Yeah, I've gone this far, it really doesn't matter anymore. And like you said, you went into some selfishness. But it seems like, you just sort of threw off the restraints. And I think I've seen a lot of people do that,
Yeah. And that I have to honestly say, all I can say is that's how I dealt with the abortion.
Right.
That's how I dealt with it. And I know women that have had PTSD so badly, they can't listen to a vacuum cleaner because we remember everything most of the time about that abortion. I can tell you an instance. When I first went through abortion recovery, I thought, well, I don't need this. I moved on with life. I was good. And I was married. I was 70 years old. It was 33 years later that I was dealing this. When I sat down with the very first session, and she gave me a piece of paper to fill out, and it was simple questions, maybe 10 questions. And the first question is, do you remember the month and year of your abortion? Do you remember the month and year your baby would have been born? Do you remember what type of abortion you had? Did you have any complications from the abortion? Do you remember when you first went into the abortion clinic? All of these questions, and keep in mind, this is 33 years later, I answered every question. Every question I answered it. So it was an emotional, traumatic experience, which I retained all of it. And that's when I looked back, and I'm going to tell you honestly, thinking about this podcast is what brought those 5 years after the abortion to my mind. I facilitate abortion recovery now, and I'm still learning. It has a tremendous effect on you because I go back. Scientifically, we can look at it, but we know that God's created us, and we know we're made to have babies. That's how procreation takes place. So,
what was the breaking point for you? Like where, because you went back to Christ, right? After
yeah.
How many years have you been serving Christ now?
Now, from the break, well, it's going to be probably about 24 years now.
So what was the beginning change? And tell us what some of the beginning processes of the healing, because I'm sitting here thinking, even of so many other things that we go through, right? That we go through shame, especially as women and men. I mean, it's not just abortion. No. Shame is all over.
Sure.
And so you really can take these same steps and begin to put it through it. So, so tell me what
happened is that I began to straighten out because my best friend, my very best friend for over 40 some years, she was there for me, and we started to see together how that we weren't happy with our lives doing that kind of stuff. I'll never forget the last time I ever went into a bar to drink and just sit and, have a good time. I sat there at the bar and I looked at this guy next to me and I said, "You know what, dude?" He said, "What?" I said, "I'm looking at a bunch of lonely people." I said, "I'm out of here. I'm done."
Wow.
I looked at my friend who wasn't my best friend, another girl, and I said, "I'm leaving." She says, "You're leaving me?" I said, "You can come with me or you can stay, but I'm done. I'm not sitting here with this bunch of losers." And up I got. And that was the catalyst to change it.
I think what is you have to get so low. I mean, I think we've had those conversations before that you have to get so low that you make that decision. What you say it sometimes too, it's when the pain of, what is it that you say to me?
The pain of not doing something becomes greater than the pain of doing it, then you'll take action.
Right.
Wonderful.
And that's very deep saying right there. Yeah. But he always comes up with these deep things, but it's when the pain of not doing something. And I think that's where the pain of not living right, the pain of became so much greater than the pain of making a choice to surrender again. And I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes to surrender to Christ, it is painful.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're going to give up yourself. What are you thinking in that?
I just, when you're talking, I'm thinking, when you go through something that's so traumatic and when you're so fixated as far as running from God is concerned, the first question I guess I have to ask you is, you know, having, you know, I've been through that. I think we all have to a certain extent have our little rebellion period, but, you know, God gives us these little nudges during the process, you know, that ultimately brings us to that point that you were at. So what did that look like for you? What were those little nudges for you?
Wow. I think it was my son
Mm.
that did,
Mhm.
because he was suffering so because his father wasn't in his life really, and now his mother is acting like a fool and doing what he never would have expected his mother to do. He was sick of the men coming in the house. He was tired of all of that. And when he started to beat himself in the face and bang on windows in the car, I sat down with him and I said, this isn't good. This is bad. And I'm part of the problem.
You know, I think that's really powerful. I want my husband to share a little bit about that, because when every action has a consequence, whether positive or negative. And when you see the people you love that your actions are causing consequences, that's the height of selfishness if you do not make a change for the life of your child. I mean, I know this is deep for you.
Interject one more thing though. I remember my son and I were talking, and I looked at him and I said, if I ever do this again, ever desert you like I have deserted you emotionally, I said, you can turn and walk away from me and never look back, because I know it will never happen again.
So you were and you were acknowledging to him that you were wrong. I know that you're thinking and feeling some things just hearing her, how it affected, you know, just from a man's point of view. I think it's so important, and that child.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's powerful to me. It's healing for your son. He's a young man in the making. So in him, he's feeling that he wants to protect you. That's a natural, God-given, you know, whether you believe in God or not, it's there. The nature to want to protect a woman, to protect children, is there.
Even for a young man.
Yeah, and so that's what men, like mentorship for men, that's what brings that out in boys, is they see that, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to act. So he's angry. That's why he's banging on windows, punching himself in the face, because the hardest thing for a man to do is to see the need that needs to be fixed and then not be able to fix it. It's hard. I'm telling you right now. So what do you do with that energy? You know, it's got to go off somewhere. You know, it was meant for a purpose. Now there's nowhere to go. So I'm really proud of you for having stepped up and said, because, and I'm not going to spend much time on it, but my mom was an alcoholic and she went through men. And there was a lot of seeing that. And so I can relate to that. You know, I remember seeing that. It's hard to see your mom go through that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
I wasn't going to do that. Anyways, so I'm proud of you for doing that, because for the young boy in him, you healed that. And that's going to change his life. Yeah. So there's something. It's never too late. Like, you went through this and you realized it, and thank God for Christ. Thank God for the blood. Now you have even more tools in your bag as to why you love the relationship with Jesus, because there is no other option that brings people out of the lifestyle, gives them hope, and gives them new life, but through Christ. Amen. And I, you know, and I don't know how else to explain it, you know. And so even the hardest of men will get to that point where they'll break. You know. And so, anyways.
Well, and you know, this is what I love, the man and the legend. But no, he's such a man, but he's not. But here's the thing about it is, I often ask you this all the time. Would it have been different for you if the man in your life would have said, please don't do it. Please don't have that abortion. I love you. I don't know. I mean, obviously, but if the man, because so many times the men are just out of the picture. I mean, men don't know how powerful they are. That's what, you know, we're all about, is back to empowering men again to understand. Don't listen to the world. You are so stinking powerful. You know, you guys, just do it. Just do it. So what would have been the difference if the man would have stepped in? How would it have changed the things?
It would have changed me completely. I mean, if he had shown any interest If he had said, wait a minute, I'm got to soak this in for a while and then we'll talk about it. But if he'd done anything to indicate he would have been a part of it, or that we could even talk about it, that would have eased things, and or I would not have had the abortion. But that's not for everybody. Okay. Today, we've gotten to the point with any young people who are listening to us today, we are to the point now where we are just being told and inundated so much, my body, my choice. Well, this body that is within you
Has a body in the right shoes.
yes, but it's not only that man, that father is a part of this equation. And it is important for him. And I do know men, and I've listened to men talk about how they did not want her to have an abortion. And they said, I'll take care of the baby. Please don't. And she's going, it's my choice. I'm doing it. And she went, and they're crushed. They're crushed.
Well, and I know that a lot of times that one of the places that we're at, if the men come in with the woman,
yes.
It's a whole different thing. She is so much more, because it's like you said, it's in most women to nurture. It's in most,
Yes.
they just need that support of the man. And I just want to take a second here, because I know there's somebody that's probably listening and watching today that the man is not a good man. And, what do they do? Where is that support group? Because I want us to get to the healing portion of what you do to take these women through the healing, because I think it's so powerful. But I think there's somebody that needs to hear, what do you do when you're in the middle of the battle? You're finding out you're pregnant. Maybe you're 17, 15. It's not unusual.
No.
Let's say you're 30 some. I mean, there's all these different scenarios, but the man is not what a man should be. What do you do if she's alone? What would you say to that woman? What does she do? What are her choices? What can she do?
And that's the importance of being able to find someone or come to a crisis pregnancy center and sit down and talk with a counselor. Most of the counselors have all been through an abortion. We all know what it's like. We're there because we want to help women be informed, because we weren't. We weren't informed. Mine was, you're 38, okay, and go back. And I'm going to say this, if you're going just to a clinic, they're making money, okay? So they're not going to sit there and talk with you for a long time or convince you or tell you about the different things. They're going to go, yeah, blah, 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 and they're going to get their money.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Cha-ching. That's what it's about. But if you come to a crisis pregnancy center, or you call a hotline, or you have a friend, like I had a friend, but she had had an abortion too. But if you have someone like that, the first thing people need to do, women need to do, because that's a very trying situation.
Right.
Okay? So the first thing they need to do is to sit and breathe. Slow down and let someone explain to them, this is an emotional thing that you're going through. This is what's happening in your body right now that is causing even more emotion than just the emotional trauma of how am I going to do this, and everything. So you sit down and you sit with someone who can explain to you, what are the different choices? And the biggest thing is to show them what an abortion is. Show them, animate it.
Because most people don't really know. That's a hard, if you have any children listening or watching, you really need to cover their ears, because it really is more than what people, they
don't know. And they don't even know about the abortion pill. One girl I talked with, she said, well, I'm just thinking I'll go get the pill. And I just said to her, do you realize it's not one pill? She said, what? I said, it's 2 pills. She said, you're kidding. I said, no. And I said, you will be aborting your baby by yourself with no medical assistance,
Right.
no medical professional,
Mhm.
and you're going to have to go through that yourself. The second pill puts you in labor.
And no one really warns them because, you know, we deal with women a lot that after it happens, nobody prepared them for what they were going to see. That they were going to see little feet, that they were going to see because they've been so told that it's just a blob. And then the emotional overweights. I mean, that's what we're there to deal with is the aftermath of why didn't someone tell me? Right.
Why didn't
prepare me?
Yeah, no one is preparing me for any of this.
Yeah.
So it is extremely traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a girl that miscarried and saw the little one in the toilet.
Oh, that happened to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just, what? I mean, honestly, and they need to see that. They need to know what's going to happen. If nothing, we are entitled, and I know that word is used a lot, but information, education, yeah. We are entitled to that. Every human being is entitled to that, including daddies. They're entitled to know.
But I like where you're heading with that. So really letting somebody know if you're in the middle of this and you don't have a great support system, because most people don't have that. That was one of the things that I was hoping you would also add to it, because it's so important, is calling, sitting, breathing.
Yes.
But you've got to find that support system that if you are going to make that choice for life, you got to get people around you that are willing to say. And a lot of pregnancy centers will do that. I mean, there is so much there for these girls that they are not alone. And that's really what a crisis pregnancy center, they get such a bad rap that it's all like, oh, they're just trying to keep you from having an abortion. No, they are a support system for you if you choose life. And that is so important to me, that people understand that you're not alone. If we could just say that you're not alone.
You're not alone. You absolutely are not alone. In any decision you make, because I'm going to say, I always hear this, choice. Well, God gave us choice. We have the freedom. We have that inalienable right from God. And so we all have choice. Do you think I can sit here and tell you I wouldn't have done what I did if someone had sat down and told me to breathe, etc.? I can't tell you that. I don't know. I'm not walking in that woman's shoes, that girl's shoes any longer.
So because I know now this beautiful woman you are leading so many women through now, forgiven and set free, and really just through recovery. What are some of the steps, and maybe share just a few of the stories that you're seeing with these women? Some of them, they're in their 70s, and for the first time,
like me,
saying, I've had an abortion. I mean, they carried this.
That secret. Don't talk about it.
Yeah. But they're carrying it, and the guilt and the shame. So maybe share some of the steps that you go through in that, and just because we're coming to an end. So.
Okay. There are several different programs out there. I've gone through Forgiven and Set Free. That was the first one that I did. And I facilitate with our assistant director, Surrendering the Secret. So I've gone through both of them. we've had young girls and we've had older women. What happens is you go through the steps that you don't even realize have affected you in your life. For example, you sit down and you have to we tell our stories. Very difficult for some people because some people really don't remember them. They blocked it, totally blocked it. Some women have been carrying it for 50, 51 years and not said anything. I know 3 women that have carried it over 50 years and didn't talk about it. So now to talk about it, but here's the amazing thing. They remember everything. They remember everything. If they remember anything, they remember everything. So it has been in there, the secret that we've shoveled under the rug or whatever. It's time to expose it.
So you tell a story. What's the next step? We tell a story.
The next thing is you see what an abortion is. Not the abortion itself. You see the development of the child. really tough. That was just came up in our session we're in now. And we have 3 women who are over 70, and 2 of them could not look at the 4-minute film. 2 of them could not look at the pamphlet that showed the different weeks. And so Rachel and I, we just pray so hard because that's one of the toughest things. And we prayed for that they would come back. They would come back because it was so difficult.
So painful, right?
But
So
they
painful.
came back. And then it was like, I did look at the pictures, the one woman said, later in the week. And I was able to. And another woman said, I actually told my husband about it. And I told my daughter.
So how many husbands don't even know? They really
Many.
keep it that much of a secret, don't
Yeah.
they? The shame is so great. So then once they do that, then where do you head? What is
Okay,
that?
now we're going into anger.
Really?
Oh, yeah. After that, because you are angry. You are angry.
Who are you angry at?
You're angry with the abortion clinic. You're angry with the doctor. You're angry with other people. I can give you only me. I was angry with my ex-husband because I feel like he set me up by what he said with my son. And now here I heard it again. He set me up for the abortion. So I was angry with him. And that's really the person I was the most angry with. I wasn't that angry with the father. I wasn't that angry with, the clinic or anything like that. I was angry and I was angry with me. I wasn't strong enough, okay, not to stand by my convictions because I didn't believe in it and stuff. After anger, then we go into forgiveness.
Which is powerful.
And that is the powerful one because the forgiveness section of it is if you have repented and asked God for forgiveness, which I did after like 4 hours later, you know intellectually that God had forgiven you. However, you have so much shame for what you've done that you don't understand how could he ever forgive me, really. And I certainly don't forgive myself. So that's what you're living with, this unforgiveness, even though you know intellectually, but emotionally you don't.
I understand.
And so then we go through that, and that is very powerful. And then there are other sessions, but the very last one is the most wonderful. It's where you memorialize your baby.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's when you have, what you've done is you've said, do you know what you think, what the baby, the sex? And of course, I thought, I know God told me it was a little girl. I have her named and everything else. And most of them do. I don't know why I think it was a boy, but that's what I think it was.
They'll say that, yeah.
They'll say it and we'll say, because God told you, because he knew us before we were conceived. He had sanctified us before we were born. So why wouldn't he tell mama? Why wouldn't he? So anyway, so you go through that and you have recognized your baby. You've honored your baby. And you know your baby is with Jesus in heaven. And you know that one day you're going to see Jesus face to face will be the greatest moment ever. And you're going to meet your baby. You're going to meet those babies. And I don't know what my baby's purpose was. I mean, God had a purpose for her before she died, before I aborted her. But so maybe I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out. But I want to say one other thing too. I know that I'm not physically, but I kind of am because I still have some of her cells in me. I am spiritually connected with her. And she's one of the reasons I'm here.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe because it is pushing you on to help other women.
Yeah.
I want you to take just 2 minutes and I want you to just speak to somebody out there who is either in the middle of the choice or on the other side of it and they're just filling with so much shame. I just want you to take 2 minutes and just love on them. Just
Okay.
what would you encourage them?
This is what I would encourage you to do. If you're in the throes right now of facing an unplanned pregnancy, I want you to reach out to a pregnancy center. I want you to take the time before you make that final decision to take a breath and know there's people, there is help out there for you, and people who love you and people who understand everything you're going through. That's the first thing, because we do love you and I care about you. And any woman that is in that pregnancy center who's had an abortion does not want you to go through what we went through. We were not informed. We want to inform you. It's always your choice. I can't make the choice for you. But I can certainly give you information and educate you so that you make the best decision for yourself at that time without having people coerce you into doing something you may not want to do. For those of you who have gone through an abortion and you've kept it a secret, whether it was from, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 months ago, 50 years ago, 40, I don't care what the number of years are, there is help. Release that secret. Secrets are bad. No secrets are good. They're bad. They harm you. And you need, or I think, the best thing you can do is divulge the secret in a safe place, in a private place, where you know people love you, and that's abortion recovery, post-abortion recovery. There are programs out there. There's Surrendering the Secret, Forgiven and Set Free, Rachel's Vineyard, which is a retreat for a week. There are many things you can do, but release yourself, because you will be amazed. I didn't think I needed abortion recovery. I needed abortion recovery more than I ever believed. But more importantly, God knew I needed it. He's the one that brought me there. He's the one that woke me up in the morning and said, when are you going to do what I'm asking you to do? And that's who wants to heal you. He's the only one that can, but you can be healed.
Amen.
You can be, and you can be free, set free.
Amen. Chris, thank you for being brave enough to come and share your story. You are so powerful at what you do. I love and I'm so honored I get to work with you every week.
And I with you. You have no idea.
We have a good time. Yeah. And we just want to thank you for joining us today. We hope this has been a major blessing to you, just that you feel loved, you feel seen, you feel worthy of God's grace. That's what we want you to feel from us today, that there is hope. That's what we always want to bring. And we want to end every section of our show with just a moment of from grit to glory. And today I actually want to tell you the story. In our Bible study group that we do every week, one of the girls was telling us this week that somebody called her up and said, you've got to pray, because my husband and I are going through a really tough time right now. And we've missed 3 of our house payments. And my girlfriend said that she didn't really know what to say. You know, you feel helpless sometimes. But she says, but I told her, I will pray. And so she prayed with her right there. And she just began to speak life over her. And she just asked the Holy Spirit to go and bring help and to send the angels out to go minister. And that day, answers don't always come this quick, but this one did. That day, her husband was at work and got a phone call, or some guy walked in and he said, hey, how are you doing today? And he says, I'm doing fine. He says, well, what does $3,500 mean to you? And the guy stood back and he's like, where is he going with this? And he's like, well, it sounds like a lot of money. And he says, well, let me just tell you, I woke up this morning and we were on our way to church to give our tithe. And the Holy Spirit spoke to our heart and said that we were supposed to bring it to you. Oh, yes. And the guy began to weep because God heard. So our grit to glory story today is when you feel down to nothing, you pray, because God's up to something. And He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He changeth not. And so if you're praying, you keep believing, because great things are coming. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time. See you soon.